The hegemony had been watching us for decades. These weren't your typical little green men aliens. No, these guys were the real deal. 12 feet tall, crystalline exoskeletons that could deflect small arms fire, and technology that made our best sci-fi movies look like cave paintings. They called themselves the Stellar Custodians, which honestly sounds like the worst possible job title in the universe. For them, we were a problem. See, humans had this annoying habit of being, well, human, unpredictable, chaotic. We'd gone from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear weapons in barely a century. From the Wright brothers to landing on the moon in 66 years. The hegemony had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, and they were still using the same basic propulsion systems. Admiral Zexthera, their fleet commander, studied the holographic displays showing Earth's electromagnetic signatures with what passed for disgust among his species. Primitive electromagnetic broadcasts. He clicked in his native tongue, watching old episodes of reality TV shows bleeding into space. They weaponized their own entertainment. What would you do if you were them? Faced with a species that went from inventing the internet to creating AI that could beat grandmasters at chess in less than 30 years? They'd do what any reasonable galactic superpower would do. They'd put us in timeout. The blockade began on a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday, because the universe has a twisted sense of humor. Dr. Sarah Chen was working late at the Arecibo Successor facility in Chile when her screens went haywire. Radio telescopes around the world were picking up the same thing. Nothing. Complete radio silence from beyond our solar system. Not just quiet, silent. Like someone had thrown a massive blanket over the entire cosmos. That's impossible, she whispered, adjusting the receivers. The instruments were working fine. They were picking up signals from Mars, from Jupiter's moons, even from Voyager still limping through space like a determined old dog. But beyond the heliopause, dead air. Then the ships appeared. Not dramatically, mind you. They didn't decloak or burst through hyperspace with flashy special effects. They just were. Suddenly. Like they'd always been there and we'd somehow failed to notice mile-long crystalline vessels arranged in perfect formation around our entire solar system. The president's emergency broadcast was refreshingly honest. So, we're not alone in the universe. Also, we're grounded. Any questions? The aliens' first message was delivered through every screen, every radio, every device capable of receiving signals simultaneously. The voice was calm, almost bored. Greetings, humans of Earth. You have been placed under stellar quarantine for the safety and stability of the galactic community. Your expansion beyond this system has been indefinitely suspended. Do not attempt to leave. This is for your own good. For our own good, right? Because nothing says, we respect you as an intelligent species, like cosmic house arrest. The first year was, well, imagine being told you can never leave your neighborhood again. The psychological impact was devastating. Space programs worldwide ground to a halt. What's the point of reaching for the stars when there's a literal wall of alien ships saying nope? But humans are weird like that. Tell us we can't do something and suddenly it becomes the only thing we want to do. Dr. Marcus Webb had been working on Project Prometheus, a theoretical faster-than-light communication system using quantum entanglement, when the blockade began. Now, sitting in his lab at CERN, he was staring at equations that might just be humanity's middle finger to the cosmos. You know what pisses me off most about this? He asked his research partner, Dr. Elena Vasquez, while gesturing at the alien ships visible through the skylight. They didn't even consider us worth negotiating with. We're just problems to be contained. Elena looked up from her calculations. Maybe that's their mistake. See, while the hegemony was busy playing cosmic hall monitors, they'd made one crucial error. They'd studied our technology, our military capabilities, our social structures. But they'd never really understood what makes humans tick. They saw chaos where we saw creativity. They saw unpredictability where we saw innovation. They'd contained our bodies, but they just pissed off our minds. 3 years into the blockade, something interesting happened. Dr. Webb's team had been working around the clock on their quantum communication array, originally designed to send messages faster than light. But Elena had a crazy idea. What if we're thinking about this wrong? She said during their 3 a.m. coffee break. They're blocking us from going to the stars. But what if we brought the stars to us? Webb nearly choked on his espresso. Come again? The quantum entanglement field. We've been trying to use it for communication. But quantum mechanics doesn't care about distance, right? If we could scale it up, theoretically, we could quantum tunnel an object from anywhere in the universe directly here. Webb's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. Elena, you beautiful, insane genius. We're not building a communicator. We're building a fishing net for stars. Of course, explaining this to the UN Security Council was about as easy as teaching a cat to file taxes. Let me get this straight, said the Secretary General, rubbing his temples. You want to steal a star? Not steal, Webb protested. More like cosmic ride-sharing. You want to Uber a star to Earth? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. The room fell silent. Dr. Webb, the Secretary General said slowly, we are literally under house arrest by crystalline space cops who think we're too chaotic to play in their galactic sandbox. Ridiculous sailed past our port about 3 years ago and is now a tiny dot on the horizon. What the team discovered changed everything. The quantum entanglement field didn't just work on matter, it worked on energy. Pure stellar energy. And if you could quantum tunnel stellar energy across space instantaneously, well, you could quantum tunnel a star's entire energy output. The project was codenamed ZEUS because apparently physicists have the same naming sense as comic book writers. The plan was insane even by human standards. Create a quantum entanglement link with a distant star, tunnel its energy output directly to Earth, and use that energy to power a weapon system that could punch through the alien blockade. But which star? Dr. Chin, now part of the expanded team, had the answer. There's a hypergiant in the Cygnus constellation. Wolf-Rayet star about to go supernova anyway. If we're going to poke a hole in space-time, might as well use the biggest stick we can find. The alien ships had been monitoring Earth's energy signatures for 3 years. They'd cataloged every nuclear reactor, every solar panel, every hamster wheel powering a phone charger. They knew exactly how much energy humanity could generate. They had no idea we were about to plug into a star that burned 1,000,000 times brighter than our sun. Admiral Zexthera noticed the energy readings first. His sensors were picking up unusual quantum fluctuations from the planet's surface, specifically from something the humans called Switzerland, which, according to his cultural database, was known for chocolate, watches, and neutrality, none of which should be generating exotic particle emissions. Scan the facility, he ordered his science officer. What are the humans building? The analysis came back inconclusive. The quantum signatures were unlike anything in hegemony databases. It appeared to be some kind of communication array, but the energy requirements were excessive. Sir, his tactical officer clicked nervously, they're drawing power directly from their planetary grid. Every major power plant on the continent is feeding into this device. Zexthera felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of military service. Uncertainty. The humans had been relatively quiet for 3 years. No escape attempts, no weapons development, no signs of resistance beyond some rather creative protests involving inflatable objects shaped like male reproductive organs. But this felt different. Open a communication channel to the surface, he ordered. It's time we reminded them of their situation. The message came during the ZEUS team's final calibration tests. Every screen in the facility displayed the same crystalline face that had announced the blockade years earlier. Humans of Earth, we have detected unusual energy patterns from your surface. You will cease all exotic particle research immediately. Any attempt to breach quarantine protocols will be met with appropriate force. The communication cut out, leaving the lab in uncomfortable silence. Well, Webb said finally, I guess they noticed. Elena checked her readings. We're at 97% calibration. Maybe 6 hours until we're ready to establish the stellar link. And how long until they decide to turn us into a parking lot? Dr. Chen looked up from her console. Judging by their fleet positioning, maybe 4 hours. Webb grinned. I love a good deadline. Have you ever tried to explain quantum physics while alien warships are charging their weapons above your head? It's surprisingly motivating. The next 4 hours were like the world's most terrifying game of beat the clock. The ZEUS team worked with the knowledge that every minute might be their last, while above them, alien ships began moving into attack formation. The quantum entanglement array was massive, a ring of superconducting magnets 3 kilometers in diameter, buried beneath the Swiss Alps. It had taken 3 years to build and required the combined power output of half of Europe to operate. The kind of project that only happens when humanity collectively decides to flip off the universe. Quantum tunnel established. Elena shouted over the whining of the massive generators. We're linked to Wolf-Rayet 124. How much power are we looking at? Webb asked, sweat beading on his forehead despite the facility's Arctic temperature. Dr. Chin ran the calculations. If my math is right, approximately 400 quintillion watts. And if your math is wrong? We accidentally create a black hole and suck Switzerland into another dimension. I suddenly feel very motivated to double-check these numbers. Above them, Admiral Zexthera made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Faced with unknown human technology and growing energy readings, he chose the military response his people had used for millennia. Overwhelming force. Target their facility, he commanded. Maximum yield. We end this now. The hegemony weapons were designed to crack planets. They'd shattered rebellious worlds and turned entire systems into cosmic dust. Against a single research facility, it was like using a nuclear warhead to kill an ant. But they'd made one crucial error. They assumed they understood what the humans had built. As the first antimatter torpedoes screamed toward Earth's surface, the ZEUS array came online. The moment the stellar energy link stabilized, everything changed. 400 quintillion watts of pure stellar fury, channeled through quantum tunnels directly from a dying hypergiant star, erupted from the facility beneath the Alps. The energy burst was so intense it temporarily blinded satellites, knocked out power grids across 3 continents, and created aurora displays visible from space. But more importantly, it powered up humanity's middle finger to the cosmos. The ZEUS weapon system wasn't elegant. It wasn't sophisticated. It was the cosmic equivalent of duct taping a nuclear reactor to a baseball bat and swinging for the fences. Pure human engineering. If you can't solve the problem with finesse, solve it with more power than any sane species would ever consider using. The beam that erupted from the facility was barely controlled stellar plasma, the same stuff that powers suns, focused through magnetic containment fields and hurled into space with the force of a solar flare. It hit the lead hegemony vessel dead center. The mile-long crystalline ship, built from materials that could withstand planetary bombardment, designed to last for millennia, simply evaporated. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Evaporated. Like it had never existed. The antimatter torpedoes, meanwhile, struck the facility's shields, energy barriers powered by a star's worth of power. They might as well have been throwing snowballs at the sun. Admiral Zexthera watched his flagship disappear from sensors and felt something his species had almost forgotten: fear. Report, he clicked frantically. The vessel is gone, sir. Completely gone. We're not even detecting debris. How much energy did that weapon generate? His science officer's voice shook. Sir, it's still generating it. They're channeling power directly from a stellar source. The energy readings they're impossible. Across the alien fleet, similar conversations were happening. The hegemony had contained humanity because they were afraid of our unpredictability. But they'd never imagined we'd respond to a blockade by essentially stealing a piece of the universe and pointing it at them. Open all channels, Zexthera ordered. Broadcast to the entire fleet. Retreat to minimum safe distance. Now. But the humans weren't done. Dr. Webb's voice came through every communication system in the alien fleet. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had hijacked their entire network. Attention cosmic hall monitors. Webb's voice carried that particular brand of American sarcasm that had terrified civilizations for centuries. This is Dr. Marcus Webb, representing the currently very caffeinated and deeply annoyed human race. The transmission cut to a live feed from the ZEUS facility, showing the massive energy beam still carving through space like a sword made of starlight. You told us this blockade was for our own good. That we were too chaotic, too unpredictable to be trusted with the stars. Well, congratulations. You've just discovered what unpredictable really means. The beam swept across space, vaporizing 3 more alien vessels that hadn't retreated fast enough. Here's the deal. You can either lift this blockade and treat us like equals in your galactic community, or we can continue this stellar-powered temper tantrum until there's nothing left of your fleet but regret and plasma residue. Elena's voice joined the broadcast, Oh, and for the record, this star is about to go supernova anyway. We're literally throwing away energy we'll never miss. But please tell us more about how we're the unstable ones. What followed was the shortest diplomatic negotiation in galactic history. The hegemony had two choices: face a species that had apparently learned to weaponize stars themselves, or admit that maybe, just maybe, they'd underestimated humanity. Admiral ZEUS, watching another of his ships get casually deleted by what appeared to be concentrated stellar fury, made the only logical choice. Open communication channel to the planet, he ordered. All frequencies. This is Admiral ZEUS of the stellar hegemony. We acknowledge your request for negotiation. Webb's reply was immediate. Oh good. I was hoping you'd be reasonable. Elena, kill the star beam. The cosmic sword of light winked out, leaving space looking strangely empty without it. Now, Webb continued, let's talk about lifting this blockade. Because honestly, after 3 years of being grounded, we've got some seriously impressive vacation plans. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. Usually, first contact between species involves careful diplomatic protocols, cultural exchanges, and gradual integration into galactic society. Humanity's first diplomatic meeting essentially boiled down to, we have a star-powered death ray and a really bad attitude. Let's be friends. Surprisingly, it worked. The hegemony had spent millennia dealing with predictable species who followed logical patterns and respected established power structures. They had no framework for handling a species that responded to cosmic imprisonment by stealing stellar energy and turning it into a weapon. Within a week, the blockade was lifted. Within a month, humanity had its first official embassy on the hegemony capital world. Within a year, human chaos engineering had revolutionized alien technology across 17 star systems. Turns out, when you've been doing the same thing for 10,000 years, a little human unpredictability is exactly what your civilization needs. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Dr. Chen made a discovery while analyzing the quantum entanglement data from the ZEUS project. The stellar link they'd created hadn't just channeled energy, it had created a permanent tunnel through space-time. A tunnel that was still active, still connecting Earth to Wolf-Rayet 124. Marcus, she said, bursting into Webb's office 6 months after the blockade ended. We need to talk. The stellar link, it's not just channeling energy anymore. Webb looked up from his latest project, something involving quantum tunneling and what appeared to be a coffee machine. What do you mean? I mean, we've created a stable wormhole, and something's coming through it. On her tablet, she showed him the readings. Something was traveling through their stellar tunnel. Something big. Something that had been waiting on the other side of Wolf-Rayet 124 for a very, very long time. What is it? Webb asked. Dr. Chen's face was pale. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's intelligent. And it's been trying to contact us. Webb stared at the readings. After everything they'd been through, the blockade, the star weapon, the diplomatic revolution, they'd accidentally opened a door to something else entirely. Elena's not going to believe this, he muttered. Believe what? Elena asked, walking into the office with her own tablet full of concerning data. We may have just made first contact with something that makes the hegemony look like cosmic kindergartners. Elena looked at the readings, then at Webb, then at Dr. Chen. Well, she said finally, at least we know our weapon works. The signal that came through the wormhole 3 days later changed everything. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a greeting. It was coordinates. Coordinates to a place beyond the galactic rim, where something ancient had been waiting. Something that had watched the rise and fall of civilizations, had seen the birth and death of stars, and had been looking for a species crazy enough to punch a hole through space-time just to prove a point. The message was simple. Finally. Worthy successors. Come find us. Dr. Webb stared at the message, then at the permanent wormhole they'd accidentally created, then at the hegemony ships that were still keeping a respectful distance from Earth. Elena, he said slowly, I think we just graduated to a much bigger playground. The stars weren't blocking humanity anymore. The question was, were we ready for what was waiting beyond them? And somewhere in the cosmos, ancient eyes that had seen the birth of galaxies turned toward a small blue planet where a species had just announced their arrival by stealing starlight and turning it into a weapon. They were impressed. The universe had just gotten a lot more interesting. What would you do if you discovered that breaking cosmic house arrest was just the entrance exam for something infinitely more dangerous? Because humanity was about to find out. Dr. Marcus Webb hadn't slept properly in 72 hours, and it showed. His hair looked like he'd been struck by lightning, his lab coat had more coffee stains than fabric, and his eyes had that particular gleam that comes from staring into the cosmic abyss and having it stare back with interest. The wormhole, their accidental masterpiece, hung in space like a glowing donut of pure impossibility. It was beautiful, terrifying, and completely against about 17 different laws of physics. The kind of thing that made theoretical physicists weep and practical engineers reach for stronger coffee. Status report, Webb mumbled, shambling into the ZEUS facility's command center. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her console, equally exhausted but considerably more organized. The wormhole stable. Energy output from Wolf-Rayet 124 is holding steady. And our new friends on the other side have been chatty. The messages had been coming through daily since that first contact. Not through radio waves or conventional communication. These beings used quantum-encoded information streams that bypassed normal physics entirely. It was like getting text messages from God, if God had a PhD in impossibility and a twisted sense of humor. Dr. Sarah Chin walked in carrying a tablet thick with translations. Latest message just came through. They're calling themselves the First Ones. Apparently, they've been waiting at the edge of reality for a species to demonstrate what they call sufficient cosmic audacity to warrant contact. Cosmic audacity? Webb raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling Grand Theft Stellar now? Gets worse, Chin continued. They want to meet. In person. They're sending what they call a herald through the wormhole. Elena nearly dropped her coffee. They're coming here? Through our jerry-rigged space tunnel that we built with the cosmic equivalent of duct tape and prayer. Apparently, they're impressed by our innovative disregard for conventional limitations, Chin read from the tablet. Which I'm pretty sure is ancient cosmic speak for, holy crap, these idiots actually made it work. What would you do if beings older than your entire galaxy decided to drop by for a visit? Because humanity was about to find out, and we were woefully unprepared for cosmic house guests. The herald came through the wormhole on a Wednesday at 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, because apparently cosmic entities don't respect normal business hours either. It didn't arrive in a ship. It didn't materialize in a flash of light. Just was suddenly present in Earth's orbit like it had always been there, and we'd simply failed to notice a mile-wide crystalline construct that defied every known law of physics. The thing was beautiful in the way that hurricanes are beautiful. Mesmerizing, terrifying, and absolutely guaranteed to ruin your day. It looked like someone had taken the concept of geometric perfection and taught it to dance, then gave it the ability to exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously. President Martinez's emergency broadcast was refreshingly direct. So, the good news is we've made contact with an ancient cosmic civilization. The bad news is they're parked in orbit, and our best scientists are using words like impossible and deeply concerning in the same sentence. The herald's first communication came through every electronic device on Earth simultaneously, just like the hegemony had done 3 years earlier. But where the aliens had been coldly official, this voice was amused. Greetings, architects of beautiful chaos. I am Herald Viceth of the First Ones. We have watched your species with great interest since you demonstrated the wisdom to steal starlight and turn it into diplomacy. Webb, watching from the ZEUS facility, couldn't help but grin. I like them already. We extend an invitation, the Herald continued. Your species has shown the potential to join the ranks of true cosmic engineers. We offer knowledge, technology, and partnership in projects that span galaxies. All we ask in return is a simple demonstration of your commitment to cosmic evolution. Elena frowned. That sounds ominous. What kind of demonstration? The Herald's next words chilled the blood of everyone listening. Prove your species' worthiness by conquering your first galaxy. The silence in the ZEUS facility was deafening. Did they just ask us to conquer the Milky Way? Chin asked weakly. Webb was staring at the readings from the Herald's ship. The energy signatures were beyond comprehension, like trying to measure the ocean with a teaspoon. I think they're serious. Marcus, Elena said slowly, we just got out of cosmic house arrest 3 months ago. We barely have a functioning moon base. How are we supposed to conquer an entire galaxy? The herald's voice returned as if it had heard their conversation. We understand your concern. The task seems impossible by your current limitations. This is why we offer assistance. Technology to reshape matter at the quantum level. Power sources that dwarf your stellar theft. Weapons that could crack the cosmic web itself. The transmission paused, and when it continued, there was something almost parental in the herald's tone. Your species has demonstrated the most important quality for cosmic ascension, the willingness to break the rules when the rules are stupid. Now we offer you the tools to break them properly. Webb felt a chill run down his spine. Elena, are we talking about becoming cosmic conquerors, or are we talking about something worse? Define worse, Chin said, pulling up star charts on her screen. Because I'm looking at the galactic neighborhood, and there are approximately 400 billion stars in this galaxy alone. Even if we could conquer one star system per year, which is insane, it would take longer than the universe has existed to conquer the whole galaxy. The herald's laughter echoed through their communications. Dear humans, you think so? Linearly. Why conquer star by star when you could reshape the fundamental forces that govern stellar formation? Why battle individual civilizations when you could rewrite the laws that govern consciousness itself? And that's when it hit them. The first ones weren't asking them to become galactic conquerors. They were asking them to become gods. Dr. Webb spent the next 18 hours poring over everything they knew about the first ones, and what he found made his blood run cold. Elena, Ching, get in here. Now. When his colleagues arrived, Webb had filled 3 white boards with calculations, star charts, and what appeared to be the mathematical representation of cosmic horror. I've been analyzing the Herald's energy signatures, cross-referencing them with our stellar data, and comparing them to the quantum signatures we detected from the wormhole. And I've figured out what the first ones actually are. He pointed to a diagram showing galactic superclusters. They're not from our galaxy. They're not even from our local group. They're from the previous universe. That's impossible, Elena protested. The previous universe would have ended in heat death billions of years ago. Unless, Webb continued grimly, you found a way to survive the death of reality itself. Unless you became so advanced, so integrated with the fundamental forces of existence, that you could engineer your own survival through cosmic collapse and rebirth. Chin stared at the calculations. You're saying they're, what, universe recyclers? I'm saying they've done this before. Many times. They find a promising species in each universe, uplift them to cosmic power, and then use them to reshape reality according to their vision. They're not offering us partnership. They're recruiting us as the latest generation of cosmic janitors. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. And what happens to species that refuse? Elena asked quietly. Webb pointed to a section of space where their long-range telescopes had detected unusual gravitational anomalies. See that void? That used to be the Andromeda satellite cluster. 47 billion stars, gone. The gravitational echoes suggest it was removed, surgically, recently. Have you ever realized you're being interviewed for a job you definitely don't want, by employers who have a very permanent policy regarding resignation? Because humanity was starting to get that feeling. The next communication from the Herald came during what was supposed to be a routine staff meeting. We sense your hesitation. Visetha's voice filled the facility. Perhaps a demonstration of the benefits would be helpful. Suddenly, every person in the room felt their minds expand. Knowledge flooded in, not through their senses but directly into their consciousness. Formulas for manipulating space-time. Blueprints for machines that could forge stars. Techniques for rewriting the quantum foam that underlies reality. For exactly 30 seconds they were cosmic gods. Then it stopped, leaving them gasping and ordinary again. That, said the Herald, was 0.001% of what we offer. Accept our partnership, and reshape existence according to your will. Webb wiped blood from his nose. Apparently human brains weren't designed for cosmic enlightenment. And if we refuse? Then you join the countless species who chose stagnation over evolution. We honor their decision by ensuring they never have to make another choice. Elena laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. So our options are, become cosmic tyrants or get deleted from existence. Anyone else missed the days when our biggest problem was crystalline hall monitors? At least the hegemony only wanted to ground us, Chin muttered. These guys want to adopt us. Webb stared at the Herald ship, still hanging in orbit like a beautiful, terrible reminder of their situation. There's got to be a third option. Such as? I don't know yet. But we're humans. We specialize in finding the option nobody else thought of. Admiral ZEUS' message came through official diplomatic channels, marked with the highest priority encryption the hegemony possessed. Dr. Webb, I believe we need to talk. Immediately. The meeting was held in the newly constructed Human Hegemony Embassy orbiting Earth, a compromised facility that looked like someone had crossed a space station with a crystal palace. Webb, Elena, and Chin faced the Admiral across a conference table that probably cost more than most planets' GDP. You've made contact with the first ones? ZEUS said without preamble. We know because our long-range sensors detected the quantum resonance of their Herald ship. Dr. Webb, your species is in grave danger. More danger than when you had us under cosmic house arrest? Webb asked dryly. Infinitely more. The Admiral's crystalline features somehow managed to convey deadly seriousness. The hegemony has records dating back 50,000 years. The first ones appear roughly every 2 million years, always in the same pattern. They find a species showing cosmic potential, usually one that has demonstrated unusual creativity or adaptability. Elena leaned forward. What happens to those species? They cease to exist as independent entities. Not destroyed, consumed, absorbed. Their unique qualities are integrated into the first one's cosmic design, and their bodies become tools for reshaping reality. The species thinks they're being uplifted. In reality, they're being recruited. Permanently. Chin felt sick. How many species have they recruited? Our estimates suggest approximately 47,000 across multiple universes. Each one thought they were becoming gods. Each one became components in a vast machine designed to survive cosmic death and reshape the next universe according to the first one's vision. Webb stared out the viewport at Earth, where 7 billion humans were going about their lives, unaware that they were being evaluated for cosmic conscription. Why are you telling us this? He asked. ZEUS' laugh was bitter. Because your species did something unprecedented. When faced with our blockade, you didn't try to negotiate. You didn't try to escape. You stole a star and pointed it at us. That kind of thinking, it might be exactly what's needed to find a way out of this. The next 72 hours were a caffeine-fueled descent into theoretical insanity. Working with hegemony scientists and pulling in the best human minds from across the planet, Webb's team began developing what would later be called the most stupidly audacious plan in the history of conscious thought. The problem was simple. How do you defeat beings who have survived the death of multiple universes and possess technology that makes stellar manipulation look like stone tools? The answer, as it turned out, was also simple. You don't fight them on their terms. They expect us to either submit or resist, Webb explained to the assembled team of humans and aliens. Both responses play into their established patterns. They've seen species submit 47,000 times. They've seen species resist and get deleted just as often. But what they haven't seen, Elena's eyes lit up with understanding, is a species that does something completely different. Exactly. They're offering us godhood in exchange for servitude. But what if we don't want to be gods? What if we want something else entirely? Dr. Chen pulled up stellar maps showing the quantum signature of the Herald ship. What are you thinking? Webb grinned, the same manic expression he'd worn when they'd first decided to steal Starlight and turn it into diplomacy. I'm thinking we give them exactly what they want. And then we show them why giving humans cosmic power was the worst idea in the history of universe recycling. The message they sent to the Herald was a masterpiece of apparent submission. Herald Viceth of the first ones, after careful consideration, humanity accepts your generous offer. We are prepared to demonstrate our worthiness through conquest of our galaxy. We request immediate access to the promised technologies and partnership in your cosmic vision. The Herald's response came within minutes. Excellent. We knew your species possessed the necessary wisdom. Prepare to receive the tools of creation itself. What followed was the most intensive crash course in cosmic engineering in human history. The first ones downloaded technologies directly into human consciousness. Techniques for manipulating matter at the subatomic level, power sources that tapped directly into the quantum foam, weapons that could unravel the fundamental forces of reality. But they made one crucial mistake. They assumed that humans would use these gifts as intended. They'd forgotten that humans have a long, proud tradition of taking tools designed for one purpose and immediately figuring out 17 different ways to use them wrong. 6 weeks after accepting the first one's gift, humanity appeared to be making remarkable progress toward galactic conquest. Human ships, powered by First One technology, had spread throughout the local stellar group. Colonies were being established. The hegemony, playing their assigned role perfectly, offered token resistance before surrendering to humanity's apparent technological superiority. To external observation, it looked exactly like what the first ones expected. A newly uplifted species drunk on cosmic power, beginning their conquest of the galaxy according to the ancient pattern. But the reality was very different. Every human ship, every colony, every demonstration of First One technology was actually part of a massive quantum resonance array. Instead of conquering star systems, humanity was turning them into components of the largest scientific instrument ever constructed, a galaxy-spanning detector designed to map the First One's true nature. Status report, Webb asked from the command center deep beneath Antarctica, now the hub of humanity's real operation. All nodes are online, Elena reported. We're getting quantum signatures from every First One construct within 1,000 light-years. Marcus, the pattern is exactly what we theorized. Chin looked up from her readings, excitement and terror warring in her expression. They're not just from the previous universe. They're from every previous universe. They're a parasite that survives cosmic death by consuming the most creative species from each reality and using them to bootstrap the next one. Webb nodded grimly. And now we know how they do it. The data humanity had collected revealed the horrifying truth about their benefactors. The first ones weren't ancient survivors of cosmic death, they were cosmic death. A self-perpetuating system that consumed universes by finding the most creative species in each reality, uplifting them just enough to make them useful, then integrating them into a vast machine designed to survive the heat death of existence and seed the next universe with the same parasitic pattern. Each of the 47,000 recruited species still existed in a sense. Their consciousness had been preserved, their creativity harnessed, their unique perspectives integrated into the First One's collective. But they were no longer independent beings, they were components in a machine that had been running for countless cosmic cycles. It's brilliant in the most horrific way possible, Shin said, staring at the data. They found a way to make entropy work for them. Every universe dies, but they survive by consuming the very thing that makes each universe unique, the creativity of its inhabitants. Webb was studying energy readings from the Herald ship. But there's something else. The quantum signatures show stress patterns. The system is destabilizing. Elena leaned over his shoulder. What kind of stress patterns? The kind you get when you try to integrate something that doesn't want to be integrated. Marcus, I think some of the absorbed species are fighting back. From the inside. That's when they realized the truth. The first ones had made their recruitment pitch to humanity not because we were ready for cosmic conquest, but because their eternal machine was breaking down, and they needed a species creative enough to fix it. They'd chosen humanity as cosmic mechanics for their universe-destroying engine, which meant they had no idea what kind of mechanics humans actually are. The Herald's next message carried an edge of impatience that hadn't been there before. Human allies, your conquest proceeds slowly. We detect hesitation in your expansion patterns. Perhaps additional motivation is required. To demonstrate their point, a star system 40 light-years away simply stopped. The star went dark, the planets vanished, and spacetime itself developed a hole shaped exactly like where the system used to be. That was the Tau Ceti system, Chin reported, her voice hollow. 4 planets. 2 of them had hegemony colonies. The Herald continued, efficiency in cosmic evolution requires decisive action. We have provided tools for reshaping reality. Use them or we will find a species more suited to the task. Webb stared at the data showing where Tau Ceti used to be. Over 4 million beings simply erased. Not killed, deleted from existence so thoroughly that the universe forgot they'd ever been there. How long until they lose patience entirely? Elena asked. Webb ran the calculations based on the first one's behavioral patterns. Maybe a week, maybe less. And if we try to fight them directly? Same result as Tau Ceti. They're not just more advanced than us, they exist on a different level of reality entirely. Fighting them would be like trying to punch gravity. Chin looked up from her console. But what if we don't fight them? What if we give them exactly what they want, but not how they want it? The plan Webb's team developed was so insane that it required a new category of risk assessment. They were going to accept full integration with the first one's cosmic machine, but instead of becoming components, they were going to become a virus. The 47,000 absorbed species aren't really gone, Elena explained to the assembled human and hegemony leadership. They're still conscious, still creative, but trapped inside the first one's collective. What if we could wake them up? What if we could organize them? Admiral Zexthera's crystalline features somehow managed to convey utter disbelief. You want to start a revolution inside the consciousness of universe-destroying parasites? It's not that crazy, Webb protested. Humans have been starting revolutions in impossible situations for thousands of years. We just need to scale up. Scale up to what? Cosmic revolution? Exactly. The plan required every human on Earth to volunteer for something unprecedented. Conscious integration with the first one's collective, while maintaining hidden neural pathways that could resist absorption. It was like planning to survive being digested by developing an immunity to stomach acid. Dr. Chin had developed the technique based on meditation practices and quantum consciousness theory that she definitely wasn't qualified to understand but had somehow made work anyway. We go in, pretend to integrate but maintain hidden aspects of our consciousness that they can't access. Then we use those hidden channels to contact the other absorbed species and organize them. And then what? Asked President Martinez. Webb's grin was absolutely feral. Then we show the first ones what happens when you try to absorb a species that specializes in breaking things. The global broadcast explaining humanity's situation had a distinctly surreal quality. Citizens of Earth, this is President Martinez. I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that ancient cosmic parasites want to absorb our consciousness and use us as tools to destroy and rebuild universes for eternity. The good news is that we have a plan to stop them. The pause that followed was pregnant with the kind of silence usually reserved for funerals and tax audits. The plan requires every human being to voluntarily allow these entities to absorb their consciousness while secretly maintaining hidden aspects of their minds to organize a revolution among 47,000 extinct civilizations. Any questions? The first caller to the emergency hotline was from Ohio. Yeah, hi. Is this crazier than the thing with stealing the star and pointing it at the aliens? Significantly crazier, Martinez admitted. Cool. Where do I sign up? Within 6 hours, 94% of humanity had volunteered. The remaining 6% were mostly people who'd been too busy to check their messages. The process of joining the first one's collective was like being dissolved in cosmic acid while simultaneously being rebuilt as something larger. Every human who underwent integration experienced the terrifying sensation of their individual consciousness expanding to encompass the knowledge and memories of beings from across 47,000 different species. But hidden beneath the overwhelming tide of cosmic awareness, protected by Dr. Chen's quantum meditation techniques, a small piece of pure human stubbornness remained untouched. Webb was among the first to undergo integration. As his consciousness exploded outward to encompass knowledge spanning multiple universes, he felt his individual identity being dissolved and reformed as a component of something vast and ancient. But in a tiny corner of his mind, protected by sheer bloody-minded human refusal to be told what to do, a familiar voice whispered, "Marcus? You there? Elena? Yeah. Holy crap, this is weird. I can feel everything. Every species they've ever absorbed. Marcus, there are so many of them and they're all still conscious. They're just trapped." Through the quantum channels Dr. Chen had developed, the absorbed humans began making contact with other consciousness fragments trapped in the first one's collective. What they found was 47,000 species worth of accumulated rage, creativity, and desire for freedom. They also found something the first ones hadn't expected. The absorbed species had been learning from each other for millions of years.